I have my Sublime. Let me just close these windows that I have here. Okay, so I'll close these windows that I have here. So the HTML. All right, so I'll bring up my Sublime. Now I have my Sublime. See, I have my Sublime up. I'll create what is called, let me create a, a blank document. So to do that with my Sublime, I go to File and choose New. Now, this is new, right? This is new. This is just a blank document. It's not a file yet. So what I did was to bring up my Sublime and click on File. Oops. Please, anytime you have this download, please don't click on it. It's going to take our time. Maybe at home, you can just go ahead and click on the download. So I click on File and I have what? New file. So with this file opened, then I can just introduce us to the HTML tag. HTML tag is not something that you should cram. There are a whole lot of HTML tags out there. You shouldn't be cramming them. All you need to do is to understand the format. If you know the format, don't cram any HTML tag. Like I said, HTML is the basic building block of web application. You meet HTML in CSS, you meet it in JavaScript, you meet it in React, you meet it in Node.js, you meet it in Python, you meet it in PHP. So why do you go on something that you'll be using as if you are going to be a web developer? HTML is going to be part and parcel of what you'll be doing. So no need to cram it. Don't cram it. Just understand the format and the structure. Once you understand that, fine. In fact, don't even jot. Please don't jot anything. Don't jot anything. Do not jot. Just watch what we are seeing, understand the concept, and you run with us. Are we together? So here, what is the format of every HTML has a format, and it's like this: less than, tag name, content, then close tag name, and that's that. So less than, opening tag, we call this opening tag. Let me press Ctrl plus plus so all of us can see. Let me expand this guy here. All right, opening tag, contents, and what? Closing tag. How do you represent closing tag? /. This is the opening tag, this is the content, and this is the closing tag. So if I want to create a tag called Ben, it's going to be Ben, contents, closing tag, Ben. If I want to create a Ndonabas, so done, or let's say ND, Mr. ND. So content and close what? ND. That's that. Once you understand this, so this is just a sample. This is just me using myself as a HTML tag. This is Mr. ND here using himself as a HTML tag. But the actual tag that I'll be working with Gongo is like this. So let's say we want to bring in a table tag. So we have our table, we have our contents, then we'll close our words, our table. We want to bring in paragraph. Notice that the format, you see the format, the way it is going. Like I said, don't cram this thing and don't jot it. You don't cram it, you don't jot it. We are still going to talk about each of them as we keep going on. So this is how the HTML tag is. You have the opening tag, you have the content, you have the what? Closing tag. Open tag, content, and what? Closing tag. That is HTML for you. Just like that. Now, another format this HTML can take is this format. The HTML can take this format like so. So let me just copy this and paste so I can move fast. All right, so here I have what is called ATR1. ATR1 equal to value 1. I put a space here. ATR2 equal to what? val2. Now, be very, very careful of what we are doing here. This is the HTML tag. This is the opening tag. Remember the opening tag. This is the content, and this is the what? The closing tag. Now, at the opening tag, we have what is called attribute 1. This is called an attribute, and this is a value. This is another attribute, and this is a value. What is an attribute? Now, an attribute is the property of a HTML tag. An attribute is the property or the characteristics of the HTML tag. When we say attribute, when we say characteristics, what do we mean? Now I'm Benedict. For those of us that have seen me live, you notice one thing about me, that I'm tall. So my attribute is, I have an attribute called height, and I have an attribute called what? Height. And what is the value of my height? Is tall. So I can put height here and put the value equal to what? Tall. I have another attribute called color. So this can be color, and what will not be my value? I am fair. If you've seen me live, you notice that I'm a fair person. So an attribute provides more information or describes the HTML element. So this is the tag name, attribute 1 equal to value 1. Now, very important, the attribute and the value are separated by what? Equal sign, and the value is inside the double quote. So let's narrow this down. So here I can have a table tag like so. So table contents, close the table. Now at the opening tag of the table tag, I can have the what is called width. So if you want to specify width for your table, you give it a value. Notice that the value is inside double quotes. Let's say 650. And now I put a space here. I have a height equal to what? Let's say 650 or 600, as the case may be. And that's that. So this is the table tag. This is the attribute with width. This is the equal to, and this is the value. This is another attribute again. This is the value. I can have as many attributes as I can equal to 1. So I have 3 attributes like so. Are we together? So let's do a recap again. First of all, we'll have a normal HTML tag. This tag doesn't have an attribute. Sometimes you create an HTML element and that element won't have any attribute. Now we're able to narrow it down to what we are seeing here: table, content, and paragraph. Now, in some cases, you might create a HTML element and that HTML element will have an attribute, like as you can see, ATR1 equal to value 1, ATR2 equal to value 2. Now, what you are seeing on line 11 is just concept. This is concept. Now, practically, you have the table tag, you have the width, you give it a value, you have another attribute again called height, you give it a value, you have another attribute again called border, you give it a value. So this is the opening tag. Remember, this part is what? Opening tag. This is the content, and this is what? The closing tag. So like I said, you don't need to panic. Mr. Ben has given us plenty information. What we are doing here is basic, and this is something you'll be doing often. It's going to be part and parcel of this. Is something you'll be doing steadily, so you don't need to panic, because by Monday, all these things will become second nature to us. By Monday, our next class is on Friday. By Monday, these things will be what? Second nature. This is not a problem. This part is not the problem. Are we together? I know where the problem is. Where the problem is, we'll sort that out. So that is that about that. Okay, so the next thing we'll look at now is what is called self-closing tag. There are some HTML element that doesn't have content and they don't have a closing tag. Example, so I have the tag name, right? Then to narrow this down, this could be an input tag. So I'll set the type attributes equal to what? Password. Then whatever other attribute again. So I have the placeholder, enter password. Are we together? Okay, so this is a little bit, maybe I jumped the process a little bit. So here I can have the break tag. This is just the break tag, and this is the HR tag. So these ones I just mentioned, they usually don't have an attribute. So I can have this other one again and paste it here. And this one will be what? ATR1 equal to value 1 space ATR2 equal to var2. So this makes sense. So you can have a self-closing tag with no content and closing tag, like as you can see here. You can have another one again, a self-closing tag with attribute and value. Attribute and value. As you can see here, the input type, the attribute is called type, the value is password, and the attribute is placeholder, and the value is what enter password. I can have another one called the image tag, img sroc. Then here I have the equal to, then I'll put the name of the file, ben.jpg. We'll talk about this. Don't worry, all these tags, we have a special section where we treat these tags in details. But for now, this is just the basic, this is just the concept of the HTML tag. I think that is that. So if you have any question or clarification, you can, if you have a question, you can raise your hand. If you have a question, you can raise your hand before we move to the next thing. Move to the next thing. If you have a question, you raise your hand before we move to the next thing. Any question? Let me stop the recording. Okay, looks like there's no question. Like, we can continue. All right, so okay, so we continue. So the next thing, let me stop the video.